I had to turn down the family vacation because my sister suddenly needed me to babysit at 2:30 a.m. I was stuck playing the part of helper and babysitter on family outings. I had to move out of my parents' house because I kept being forced to help watch my 3 nephews. Last year, we took a family vacation in the summer to the coast. I rode along with my parents and they paid for my hotel room. I had to share the room with 3 rowdy boys because my sister and her husband wanted a room to themselves. I was promised time to do my own things on the vacation, but instead I ended up having to help with the kids. I complained about it, but I was told I was there for free. We pretty much just did one thing I wanted to do, which was tour an art gallery. I like doing this whenever I'm at the coast, but the kids find it boring. This year, my parents have a beach trip planned for June. They assumed I'd be riding along, like last year, but I refused. I said I'd be driving myself and paying for my own hotel stay. My parents were surprised and tried to remind me of the cost. I told them it was no problem. I have a good job and a reliable car, so I can afford it. That's when my sister started complaining. She said I should stick to driving my parents' car and paying for my own hotel room. She thinks I should act like a child and not enjoy this vacation like an adult. My parents told her I'd ruin the vacation if I'm not driving with them. I ended up yelling at her that last year all she did was rope me into her mess. I didn't really get to do much of anything I wanted to do, and I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to just go to an art gallery. I'm a grown man. I deserve my own vacation too. Now my sister is not speaking to me, and my parents are still trying to convince me to just ride with them to keep the peace. I'm still refusing, but I'm feeling the pressure. I'm starting to feel like the jerk here. What do you think? I know they'll have a pretty hard time when they won't have another person there to help edit. It's barely been an hour since I posted, but my sister is apparently a Reddit lurker in the mornings. She saw my post and she's furious with me. She's also upset that no one in the comments is siding with her. To make a long story short, she went on a big rant about how it's so hard to be a parent to triplets. She said the least I could do is help. I'm young and single, and she needs a break. I stood my ground on my decision, and now she's calling our parents to get them involved. I'm expecting a call from them any minute. I'm off work now, so I can tell you more about what went down. You could say it's over. My sister got our parents involved. They looked at my post and were absolutely horrified by the continuous influx of commenters. Yes, they're very angry with me for posting here, but I told them that if I'd just been listened to from the start, I wouldn't have had to go through all this. I'm tired of the keep the peace mentality that sacrifices me on the altar of family harmony. To make a long story short, the vacation has been canceled. The hotel wasn't booked yet anyway, but my parents are arguing with my sister. My sister is blaming me, and my nephews are upset because they won't be going to the beach. My sister called me at lunch and basically implied I have no life, which I have time to help because I recorded that and told our parents. That's currently what they're fighting about. I wasn't going to update again, but here's a little more. My parents said that they won't ever ask me to babysit my nephews again. They've agreed that what happened last year was unfair to me. Right now, they're very angry with my sister for telling me I should help her because she thinks I have no life. My sister is playing the victim, and my brother, in other news, the law is basically saying no to the whole situation and spending most of his time at work. Thanks to everyone who has commented. You made my day. My parents apologized, but my sister did not, at least not at first. A week ago, I made this throwaway account to ask if I was the jerk. I was found to be anything but tea. I have too much to say to post in one go. Is I am the jerk an update? A friend recommended I come. I'll give you a quick overview of what happened with my account. Am I the jerk? Basically, I opened Pandora's box in the family. My parents and older sister were used to me helping with childcare for my young triplet nephews. I didn't leave home until I was 22 because I was trying to save money while going to college. A scholarship covered a lot, and living at home kept me from getting into debt due to my part-time work. I'm also grateful for this. However, after college, everyone acted like I had endless time and convinced me to go on a family vacation. I was forced to babysit my 3-year-old at the time, and I had to watch my 6-year-old as well. I even had to share a hotel room with them. Those kids didn't listen to a word I said on the first night until I called their mother twice. I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to do other things during the trip. If it's something the family doesn't enjoy as a whole, then it doesn't happen. That was extremely hypocritical because I'm family and wasn't included in that vote. I told my parents about this after my last post, and they have acknowledged it. After that awful vacation last year, I decided it was time to move out and did so before the summer even ended, which surprised everyone. I landed a great job pretty much right after college, thanks to an internship, and used moving as an excuse to drop my commute from 45 minutes to 15. My sister hated this the most because it meant no more free babysitting on weekends, but she still tried to make me do it. I gave in sometimes, usually by being bribed with pizza. This sort of became a new norm, but then last month, my parents announced plans for another family vacation to the same place along the coast. They basically wanted it to go the same way. I immediately saw it for what it was. I knew that if I rode with my parents and let them buy the hotel rooms, I would be screwed over the same way as last time. So, I just casually stated that I drive myself and pay for myself. That's when the storm started. My parents realized they couldn't entrap me like before. They resorted to borderline begging, and my sister they tried to get me to go along with things through gaslighting. I didn't cave to my sister's demands. I made the "I'm the jerk" post after days of harassment. Then my sister somehow spotted the post in less than an hour. What followed was a lot. At first, the family was against me. My sister called our parents, and they called me when I still had a little time to talk in the morning. My parents were on the phone with me while also reading my post. I asked them if anything in the post was a lie. They sort of steered. I told them I thought the post was pretty accurate, and I pointed out a lot of details that backed it up. Then I asked them to check the comments, which were already too many to read. I was refreshing the page on my home computer and telling them how many comments there were. I said I was tired of their mentality of keeping the peace by forcing me to apologize to my sister. I said I was out of time and that we would have to resume this later. My parents were really upset that so many people had commented. People were commenting in a matter of hours. Later on, I told them the numbers had basically doubled and were still growing, which only added to their horror. So, they were forced to take a long look at their own actions. My sister tried to call me while I was at work, but my phone was on silent until my lunch break. She left messages and texts, but she was persistent and managed to get through to me when I was eating my lunch. The gist of the conversation was that my post had taken our parents away from her perspective, and now they were mad at her in the ensuing argument between them. My parents canceled the entire vacation. They later acknowledged that they just passed the blame around because they were embarrassed and accepted full responsibility. They told me no excuses could excuse the fact that they made me their go-to free babysitter when I wasn't even living at home anymore. They did try to backtrack a little by pointing out that they never charged me rent while I was in college, but I reminded them that kids don't ask to be born, and I was doing my best to make. I then pointed out that my father had the same kind of advantage from his parents. They let him live free of charge at home while he was in college, which basically ended any argument my parents had. When my sister called me at lunch, I presented the facts to her, and she showed her true colors. She implied that I have no life and that my free time on weekends should be spent helping her because she is tired and unable to even go out without bringing her children with her unless someone is watching them. She is a stay-at-home mom. At the end of the day, my sister is a stay-at-home mom with a husband who makes a decent salary. They live in a pretty decent house that's owned, not rented. To be frank, my nephews aren't really my responsibility. They just forced them on me and expected it to stay that way. My sister angrily hung up on me, but I'd recorded the call and then played it to my parents later. They were furious. They basically went to war with my sister. My sister dug her heels in, blamed me, and then doubled down on her belief that my life should revolve around hers. I told her that was the most narcissistic and entitled thing she'd ever said about me. It took days, but her husband finally stepped in and forced I made her apologize to me. I'd never seen her cowed like that by anyone. She was on the verge of crying. We ended up admitting that one of the reasons I was the go-to babysitter was because my sister didn't trust strangers. It was never about the money. Was it actually about my brother-in-law? My sister thought I was being paid for babysitting her kids after I moved out of my parents' house. She didn't even give me gas money. She just gave me cash, which was enough to order pizza for both myself and the kids and pocket some of the rest. My sister had been shortchanging me for months. When this came out during her half-assed apology, my brother-in-law blew up at her. She was forced to pay me what she owed me in cash, entirely from her own savings, which she looked very sore about. My brother-in-law apologized for not stepping in and for letting my sister take advantage of me. He promised to get a normal babysitter from now on. It'll cost them a bit, but it'll be worth it. My sister will get her date nights back. The next day, we had a family meeting at my parents' house. We talked about everything and everyone apologized. My parents decided to go ahead with the family vacation. I'm still planning to drive myself. I'll even pay for my own hotel stay. I'll stay in a completely different hotel if my sister tries to revert me to childcare. She's promised me that won't happen. If I don't update again after the vacation in another month or so, you'll all know everything is fine. Update 2. My sister called me demanding I take my posts down. She's more upset than ever to know how far it spread. Having a family that knows about your Reddit account has its disadvantages. Yesterday, my sister called me after I got off work to ask if the comments were still coming in. She said she can't bear to look at them because they're all so hurtful. I was honest with her, telling her that at least 10 comments are still coming in daily. Most of them say similar things about her. She started crying and demanded that I delete my Reddit posts, but I refused. I told her she can cry to anyone she wants, but I'm not deleting my posts. I'm staying up because I'm sure she won't treat me like that again. After all, she felt like my life should revolve around hers. She didn't pay me for babysitting and pocketed the money for herself. She forced me to be the babysitter on last year's family vacation, so I had no fun at all. Is it any wonder people are having so much hate for her? My situation has already made its way to other websites. I was asked a couple of times to let an article be made about it, and there are some videos that were read as well. My sister was pretty upset when she heard about it and hung up. My parents then called me, begging me to take the post down. I told them I wouldn't, and I explained that I only did this because they didn't stick up for me. This would have never happened if they'd told my sister to treat me like an equal, not a servant. I'm not her babysitter or handyman. I'm her brother and I'm a grown man. Wouldn't they be tired of this crap in my shoes too? They agreed but still begged. I took the posts down. I refused and said that I'll keep making more if they don't start sticking up for me more when my sister comes crying to them. Let her clean up her own messes because all the enabling of her led to this. I didn't father those kids. I've got a life of my own, a career I'm still new to, and hopefully soon enough a girlfriend. I'm moving my life forward and I won't be held back. I've got a life of my own, a career, and I'm still new to it. Hopefully soon enough I'll have a girlfriend. They can either step out of my way or keep trying to enable my sister, but I told them that the latter would end badly for them. The only way this posting on Reddit will stop is if the drama stops. I've kept things anonymous, and I've got a right to vent my very valid frustrations. Well, that left my mother crying. My father just went silent, and I said, "Tears don't move me. They know what I mean. It'll take a while to end this and to stop enabling my sister." Well, my sister called me again to yell at me. She said our parents have told her they aren't dealing with this anymore and to figure it out herself. Oh, and they told her to be nicer to me too. I just pictured her twitching as she internally screamed after hearing that. Be nice to my kid brother? What is this? Do I look it up on Google? Yeah, I was that sarcastic to her. But it left her crying too when I hung up. My brother-in-my lawyer called me later to get my side of the story. He was upset that I'm still posting and made his wife cry. I explained everything to him, and he said he'd have another talk with my sister. Hopefully, this drama will finally end here, but the family vacation is still on for late June. I've already booked my room and requested a day off work so we can all leave on a Friday. My room is also not near the ones my parents, sister, Bill, and nephews will be using. In fact, it's not even on the same floor. When we go to the coast, when it's not a family activity, I'm going to go where I want and do what I want. I'm going to tour those art galleries, pig out on local food, and just enjoy being carefree for a change. Update 3 after the family vacation is over, and I've got some thoughts on the good and bad of it. On the plus side, My parents didn't enable my sister to try to make me babysit. She did try, but it didn't work out, and it got her in trouble with her husband again. I made sure to tell the hotel that I didn't want any of my information shared with anyone. I let them know in advance that they shouldn't give out any of my information to anyone who asked, except for the police. They promised me over the phone that they wouldn't tell anyone if something happened. On the day of the vacation, I left earlier than the rest of the family. I knew they wouldn't be able to get moving as a group until at least 10 a.m. I left at 9 a.m. because the check-in wasn't until 1 p.m. I wanted to get a head start, so I sent out a group text and was on my way. The drive was about 3 hours, and my parents were bummed because they'd planned a family brunch along the way. I told them I wasn't aware of that, so we decided to go with fast food instead. I got to the hotel early, too early for check-in. I went to the front desk and told them I was there to make sure my parents or sister didn't give them my information. They said they don't do that, but I told them I know for a fact it still happens. Sometimes, so I'm covering my bases when they're dealing with my mother and my sister and 3 kids who might be crying at the desk. They had better not yield. I wanted to know if they try anything. They awkwardly promised me that no one but me would get access to my room. Then I decided to go out and get something to eat. I came back more than an hour later, and there was my parents' car and my Bill's big SUV. I went to the front desk to check in after making sure the lobby was clear. I asked the clerk if my family had asked about me and where I was staying in the hotel. They had, but the clerk refused to tell them. My sister had apparently tried to push it, but her husband shut her up. I checked in, went to my room, and then called my folks. I didn't mention that I knew what they tried with the clerk, and they didn't mention it either. So then we all met up as a family to go out and tour around my sister. At one point, she asked me to watch her kids for a moment. I told her no because I knew exactly what she was doing. She would pretend to be gone for a moment, and then she'd be gone for an hour. I called her out, and her husband told her to stop trying to make me watch their kids. What did my sister do? She just started crying. My sister's husband told her to stop trying to make me watch their kids. My mother gave me a nasty look, so I went right to her and said that if she thinks I should be watching those kids, I'd walk away from this family vacation right now. It's not my job, and I'm sick of her and my sister acting like it is. Well, that made my mother start crying too. And then she just started repeating the words. You're right. This is another old tactic of hers. She tries to look pathetic to guilt me, but I just said, I'm right, and to just let it go before walking away. Neither my mother nor sister tried anything for the rest of the day. When we got back to the hotel after dinner, my family were all crowding the elevator, but I didn't get in with them. They asked why, and I said I'd wait for the next one. My sister glared at me because she knew exactly what I was doing. I just sat in the lobby watching YouTube on my phone for 15 minutes and then took the elevator up. I was on a different floor and on the other end of the hotel. I had a great night, and the next morning we all went out for breakfast, but I made sure they left first. I was the last one out, just like I was the last one in the night before. Breakfast went fine. Then I gave an FYI that I'm going to be doing my own thing for the day. My mother tried to bring up plans to go to the aquarium and a couple of other places, so I said I'd meet them for those, but the rest of the day was mine until family dinner. They accepted this, and that day went fine too. Back at the hotel that evening, though, my sister caught me leaving my room. She must have been looking for me on the whole floor. I went back to my room to relax a bit before dinner because I was tired from walking so much. My sister was just down the hall when I left my room to meet them for dinner. She tried to corner me and say that I told her that I didn't think she'd enjoy the family vacation because it wasn't going to be any different for her than at home, since she had to deal with her kids. I said that I was tired of being her scapegoat and that it was already over, so she should just leave me alone. Leave me alone and get on with your own life. I started walking with her, yelling, "Hey, I'm trying to talk to you." I told her I didn't care and was going to dinner. She followed me to the elevator, and we both said nothing to each other. I didn't stay silent and told my parents and my brother, and my sister had followed me to find my room. She was scolded like a child. She had a pity party. I told her to stop and grow up. The old days when she could force her will on me were over. Then I walked out of the lobby into my car. This time I was the first one to dinner. When everyone else arrived, My sister looked depressed, but I didn't care. I was fine with what happened before. My sister didn't contact me at all that evening. I didn't want to ride in the elevator with the rest of them, so I told them I wouldn't answer the door unless it was an emergency. I had a "Do Not Disturb" sign up. Everything went well during the day. My sister and mother didn't bother me at all. They'd given up by then. I did play with my nephews a bit during the whole vacation. I'm not a jerk. I didn't stonewall them. I was still the fun uncle, just not the babysitter. The kids didn't seem to care. They just wanted to play. I even bought each of them one. I also got them one of those little baggies of crystals and polished stones to take home as a souvenir. There was a bit of mild drama between my sister and her husband, but that was just some small disagreements that I didn't bother to pay attention to. All in all, I'd call the vacation a win because it finally hit home for my mother and sister that the old way they did things just wasn't working. As for my mother and sister, that's another story. They just don't know when to let well enough alone. I warned them that if they didn't stop, I would go right back to Reddit. And that's exactly what I did. The short of it is that my mother and sister saw my last post and freaked out. My sister was stalking my account. My sister called me and cried that I made her look like a bad mother. I ended up replying that if the glass slipper fits, she should wear it. My sister argued with me some more, but I asked her to name anything in the post that was a lie. She tried several times, but I pointed out that every detail was accurate, so what did she do? She called my mother. My mother showed up at my door demanding I delete all the posts. I told her no, and now I have ammunition for one more. I ended up making her leave crying. I spoke with my mother and father over the phone later, and I told them that their enabling of my sister led to the previous family dynamic. I'm not going back to how things were. If they want any hope of that, they're going to have to do something about it. My parents then told my sister to stop blaming me and to leave me alone. They can't take the stress of my retaliation anymore. Well, my sister had a pity party, and my parents had to snap her back to reality. My brother, I haven't heard from my in-law, and I'm pretty sure he's staying in a different SL. This can't be good for his marriage or my relationship with him, so I'm respecting my brother-in-law's wishes. I'm sorry, but your wife has pushed me too far. Currently, my parents are insisting that my sister gets counseling because she can't be a mom and juggle the habits of her old life. I'm hoping this is my last post. You hear that, sis? If you don't stop thinking that I should have been your personal slave, babysitter, watchdog, etc., and want to keep acting like the whole world is against you because you can't lord over me, then we can't be around. Maybe we can get along and move past this if you're willing. Don't give me a reason to write anything else, and I'll only post about you on Reddit if it involves me and the treatment I get from people. I'll be treated like a decent human being, and this will be over. I also had a talk with my parents who apologized. We've agreed that I'll keep a bit of a distance until Thanksgiving. I also had a meeting with a man. I had a one-on-one with my brother. I'll get back to you on that. Last night, over some beers, my brother-in-law told my sister she needed counseling or he would separate from her. They're in the process of finding her a counselor. He also told me that while my sister was an absolute witch to me at home, she is a very loving and endearing wife. He also admitted that she liked being an only. We're nearly a decade apart in age, so my sister held on to some resentment about that for a long time and just let it build up. She's agreed that she does need counseling, and will be going as soon as they get it set up. They've also found a qualified babysitter to look after my nephews. Aside from those things, my brother-in-law did admit that he was angry with me too, but didn't step in when I needed him. We've agreed that this was all just a very bad situation that needs to be ended. From here on out, we're just going to let it rest in peace. These posts have also led to a new relationship. The girl I like had a feeling it was me after she read them and was just waiting for me to say something. We'll be going on our first date tonight, so I thank everybody here for their support. I really needed it.